which over the past week has been rattled by a series of drone sightings, is hosting dozens of European leaders over 2 days.
Volodymyr Zelensky and head of the UN nuclear watchdog Rafael Grossi say the loss of external power to Zaporizhzhia's nuclear power plant is concerning.
A nationwide strike protesting labor law changes has halted travel and services across Greece.
Denmark, which over the past week has been rattled by a series of drone sightings over sensitive sites, is hosting dozens of European leaders over 2 days. The topics being discussed include defense initiatives such as a possible drone wall, as well as support for Ukraine against Russia. An informal European Council summit with 27 EU leaders on Wednesday will be followed by a gathering of the European political community attended by over 40 European heads of state on Thursday. Danish authorities are taking no chances and have banned all civilian drone flights from Monday to Friday to avoid the risk of confusing enemy drones with legal ones. The timing of the drone sightings in the country should sharpen the minds of EU leaders, whose talks will primarily focus on how to bolster the bloc's defense efforts and how to defend the eastern flank.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and the head of the UN nuclear watchdog Rafael Grossi have raised concerns about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant's loss of external power supply more than a week ago. The situation raises serious safety concerns at the Russian-occupied plant as the war continues to rage around the facility. Grossi said the plant is currently receiving power from emergency diesel generators to power and cool its 6 non-operational reactors, noting that there is no immediate danger to the site yet. He, however, added that this is not a sustainable method and could prove risky in terms of nuclear safety if it prolongs. Zelensky says the backup generators have never needed to run this long, describing the situation as critical, as he stressed that the plant was not designed to operate this way. The Ukrainian leader slammed Moscow for cutting the power lines to the plant in one of its attacks. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov rejected the accusation, instead saying the power lines were damaged by Ukrainian shelling. Grossi said IAEA inspectors verified that the facility can continue to safely operate on generators for more than 10 days. He also said, however, that he was in touch with Ukrainian and Russian officials about how to swiftly reconnect the plant to the grid to mitigate potential crises.
A nationwide general strike in Greece has halted trains, ferries, and taxis across the country's capital, Athens, as public and private sector workers protest changes to labor laws. For 24 hours, no taxis or trains will run, while buses, metros, tram, and trolley services operate on a reduced schedule. The strike also disrupted services across other parts of the country, affecting schools, courts, public hospitals, and municipalities. 2 protest marches were planned in central Athens, with demonstrations also set for other cities. The labor law changes would introduce more flexibility, including allowing overtime that could stretch shifts to 13 hours in a day. Working hours that include overtime would be capped at 48 hours per week, with a maximum 150 overtime hours allowed per year. Unions argue the new rules leave workers vulnerable to labor abuses by employers and called for a 37.5-hour working week and the return of collective bargaining agreements.
The Portuguese government on Tuesday adopted stricter immigration laws to make it harder to enter the country, pushed through with the support of the far right. The center-right parliamentary majority approved the revised bill after the Constitutional Court blocked its previous version for being too harsh on immigrants' family members seeking to join them. While all the left-wing parties voted against the bill, the 2 largest parties approved more than a dozen amendments to the decree, with the overwhelming support of the right-wing parties represented in the chamber. The raft of measures approved stipulates that only highly skilled workers are eligible for job search visas, And from now on, family reunification for immigrants will only apply after at least 2 years of legal stay. Lawmakers are still debating another element of the reform regarding conditions for acquiring Portuguese nationality. 2024 records show more than 1.5 million non-Portuguese people were living in Portugal, around 15% of the total population, and nearly 4 times more than in 2017.
After thousands joined Italy's general strike in solidarity with Gaza, activists across the country have continued staging protest, setting up camps in around 100 cities to oppose Israel's war in Gaza. Here in Rome, they say they're ready to protest again in the coming days, with a major rally planned on October the 4th in the Italian capital.
Siamo qui a mantenere alta la mobilitazione e l'attenzione sulla Palestina, sulla Global Summit Flottiglia e su ciò che sta accadendo a Gaza. Lo abbiamo detto e lo diciamo ancora, il 22 settembre abbiamo bloccato il paese, oggi se toccano e bloccano la flottiglia siamo pronti a farlo di nuovo.
They demand stronger political action, saying they feel represented neither by the government nor by opposition parties.
Credo che il 22 settembre sia scesa in piazza una parte di paese che ha dimostrato che oggi esiste un popolo ed esiste un governo e una classe politica. Oggi questo popolo vuole la fine del genocidio, vuole una classe politica che si assuma le proprie responsabilità e che metta al centro quelle che sono le priorità della popolazione del paese. Noi vogliamo un'alternativa autonoma e indipendente dal governo e dal centro-sinistra.
Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has strongly condemned protests turning violent, while the Italian government continues to warn the flotilla about the dangers of approaching Gaza. Italians who spoke to on the streets of Rome expressed mixed views on the issues.
Allora, riguardo alla manifestazione in generale, le varie manifestazioni le condivido, le percepisco come molto sentite nella popolazione, nelle persone che mi sono attorno e penso che abbiano un effetto, possano avere un effetto a livello di posizione di governo, quantomeno nella sua maggiore chiarezza. Sulla flottiglia sinceramente non mi so fare un'opinione precisa, non riesco a distinguere bene il livello di utilità rispetto invece a quello di simbolo, ecco, di segnale.
Bello vedere tutto questo sentimento popolare diffuso che c'è, è una cosa molto bella anche perché fa un po' da collante in questo periodo storico dove non sembra poterci essere un qualcosa di unificante. I movimenti che lo portano avanti secondo me sono un po' disorganizzati, quindi adesso ci sono i numeri perché per fortuna c'è ancora tanta gente che scende in piazza, però si potrebbe fare meglio dentro.
Police in Munich closed the Oktoberfest beer festival in the city on Wednesday morning due to a bomb threat. Police say the threat was connected to an earlier explosion at a residential building north of Munich, which killed at least one person. Investigators say they've recovered explosive devices at the site of the attack. They also say they have reason to suspect the perpetrator was plotting various other attacks, including on the world-renowned festival. Employees in attendance were asked to swiftly leave the premises and were escorted to a designated area for their safety. The festival venue is approximately 9 kilometers away from the targeted property.
The Taliban government dismissed reports of a nationwide internet ban in Afghanistan on Wednesday, saying that disruptions were due to old fiber optic cables being replaced. The announcement is the Taliban's first statement regarding a communications blackout that has left the country almost entirely cut off from the outside world since Monday. Digital advocacy group NetBlocks first reported the nationwide outage, saying internet connectivity and telephone services were collapsing across the country. The UN assistance mission in Afghanistan said the blackout is crippling banking and financial systems, isolating women and girls, limiting access to medical care, and disrupting air travel.
The United States government shut down on Wednesday after lawmakers failed to reach an agreement on how to fund the government. On Tuesday, Senate Democrats voted down the last-ditch Republican bill to extend federal funding for 7 more weeks. As Republicans only have 54 seats in the Senate and need 60 votes, Democrats use that as leverage in an effort to achieve their policy goals regarding health care. Both sides had blamed each other for the imminent shutdown and refused to budge from their positions. Now that a lapse in funding has occurred, roughly 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed or potentially laid off by the Trump administration. Those that stay on the job won't get paid until after the shutdown ends. The last government shutdown lasted for 35 days from December 2018 until January 2019 during Trump's first term as president. That shutdown had been the result of a dispute over immigration and border security. A powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake jolted the central Philippines late on Tuesday, killing at least 69 people on the island of Cebu. Efforts are underway by the government to search for survivors and restore power and water supplies. Authorities fear the death toll is further expected to rise. The shallow quake's epicenter was roughly 19 kilometers from the coastal city of Bogo, with a population of 90,000. Its tremors caused widespread damage. Footage circulating on social media showed the severe damage the quake caused to an old Catholic church in the nearby Bantayan Island, with its walls and belfry collapsed into the courtyard. The earthquake comes less than a week after the area was battered by back-to-back storms. The Philippines is one of the world's most disaster-prone countries and is often hit by earthquakes and volcanic eruptions due to its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire.